what we have to say this afternoon. My name is Barbara Shiller, and I'm with the Ohio Association of School Business Officials. I'm also a part of One Ohio Now, representing that our organization, and serve on the steering committee for One Ohio Now. And so again, we'd like to thank all of you for being here. If you're part of the media and haven't signed in or received a media packet, please be sure to do that. I will tell you that in the packet you should find an agenda for today's press conference. The press release that has been made public for your use, the names of all the organizations who are members of One Ohio Now, and the set of principles that we've established over time over the past year, and an op-ed piece that we did distribute earlier in the year so folks could start to get to know us. I'm going to introduce a few of the people who are involved in One Ohio Now, some of the representative organizations, just so you can put a face to some of the groups that are involved. Not all were able to be here today, but I am going to just go through a quick list and hope somebody will let me know if I've missed anyone. But first I'd like to introduce Andrea Fages, who is our One Ohio Now coordinator. Officially came on board, I think, in August. We have Col Owens, who will be participating from the Legal Aid of Southwest Ohio. Shiller, Policy Matters Ohio. We appreciate the two of them being willing to participate in today's activities. We have Michael Charney, who's here representing Ohio Youth Voices. Bruce Weingard from the Ohio Civil Services Employees Association. Robert Davis from ASME Ohio Council 8. We have Becky Williams and Monica Moran from the Service Employees International Union 1199. Kirk Noden, who's sitting here, he'll be participating outside here in a few minutes from the Mahoney Valley Organizing Collaborative. Sue Taylor is here from the Ohio Federation of Teachers, and Bill Liebensberger from Ohio Education Association. Also joining us today is Brian Rothenberg from Progress, Ohio. So those are just a few of the people. You'll see a more extensive list of all of the organizations who have been part of One Ohio Now. So next I'd like to just talk to you a little bit about why we're here today. As you most likely all know, Ohio is facing an unprecedented challenge in the upcoming budget. In the next 2 years, in our next two-year budget, we will be facing a record shortfall of up to $8 billion because of the national recession and because of changes that we have made in our state tax policy. Schools, fire and police, hospitals, libraries, and local government services are all at risk. However, we believe there is a reasonable way out of that crisis. That is why today we're here to formally announce the formation of our organization, One Ohio Now. It's a broad-based, diverse, and nonpartisan coalition of organizations focused on promoting the well-being of our families and communities in this difficult economic time through a balanced approach to the looming budget crisis. We represent over 30 organizations, from educators and school boards, health and human services, transportation, labor, and others that realize the importance of investing in what makes Ohio a great place to live and work. One Ohio Now will be advocating for a balanced approach to the budget. There needs to be a discussion that goes beyond a cuts-only approach, and that one that considers all available options to get to a solution that's best for the people of Ohio. This includes looking at revenues to minimize the impact on Ohioans and to ensure that our state economy can emerge strongly when prosperity does return to the state. During our time together today, we will hear from Shiller, as I mentioned before, and he's going to talk about the state's current fiscal crisis and what has turned into a crisis as a result of the national recession and our current tax structure. And he'll talk about the fact that that gives us a weak foundation to move forward, and he will offer some solutions that we might consider that would be available to our state leaders. Then we're going to hear from Col Owens with Legal Aid of Southwest Ohio about the impact of the recession on families and communities and what is at stake if we don't respond. So at this point, I'm just going to turn it over to Zach so that he can give you sort of some of the reasons for why One Ohio Now was formed.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd also like to mention Michael Cook in the front row here from ABLE, which is one of the other participating organizations, and perhaps there are others now. We've all heard about the budget gap of $8 billion or thereabouts. And while we don't know the exact amount, it's obviously very large. Why does this gap exist? It's not because of one-time revenue during the current biennium. That is a response to the gap, not a cause of it. By far, the primary cause is a drop-off in state revenues. During the fiscal 2006-2007 biennium, the state collected nearly $6 billion more in general revenue fund taxes than is anticipated during the current fiscal 10-11 biennium. Why is that? Some of it is the economy, just as in other states. Some of it also is a result of the tax overhaul of 2005. The State Taxation Department has estimated that this reduced the amount of taxes collected by more than $2 billion in fiscal 2010 and will continue in the future. We need to include revenue in the discussion of the upcoming budget. This is sensible, and it's what Ohio has done when times were even worse than they are now. One Ohio Now's agenda calls for these things: balancing the responsibilities of individuals and corporations. We should strengthen major corporate taxes. Overall, businesses pay less than 30% of state and local taxes in Ohio today, compared to nearly 40% in the 1970s. Increasing equity is the second principle by reforming the personal income tax. This tax needs to be more equitable and adequate. And finally, accountability through closing tax loopholes. The state allows more than $7 million a year in exemptions, credits, and deductions, most of which have not been re-examined in years, if ever. I'd like now to turn it over to Col and talk more about some of the needs.
Good afternoon. My name is Col Owens. I am with the Legal Aid Society of Southwest Ohio. I want to take just a few minutes to discuss with you this afternoon the needs in Ohio that make a balanced approach to our budget during this economic crisis so important. Zach has described for you how revenues have collapsed during this recession to unprecedented levels. This has already led to billions of dollars of cuts in a wide variety of programs and services since the recession began. So cuts are not a new proposition. But if undertaken alone, they will only further exacerbate the huge problems that are already faced by Ohioans in many areas of life, and I'll describe a few of them in just a minute. So we need a strategy, and this is the key. We need a strategy that minimizes the negative impacts on Ohioans while making those investments that are necessary for us to emerge from this crisis in a strong way, in a way that will take us forward to the future that we want. So we need a plan that supports all Ohioans. And let me just describe briefly a few of the areas and what the potential implications are, what the implications have been of these many cuts that have already been enacted. In education, cuts in education result in fewer teachers in schools, larger classroom sizes, greater difficulty in teaching all children successfully. Arts, music, sports that are so important to academic performance are affected. Most importantly, our great progress in improving the quality of education is threatened. Cuts in higher education, in workforce development, and job training services threaten our economic future by undercutting the preparation of our future workforce. Ohio needs a strong, educated, and healthy workforce in order to compete effectively in the global economy. Cuts in children's services jeopardize the well-being of over 200,000 children at risk. They undercut our progress in reducing the number of children in out-of-home care and reduce the support for foster care. Cuts also jeopardize Ohio's progress in early care and education that benefit over 250,000 children. Cuts in Medicaid jeopardize health care for some of the 2.2 million people in Ohio who depend on it, including 1 of 3 newborn children. They also negatively impact on local economies by reducing the multiplier effect of Medicaid spending. Every state dollar that's invested in Medicaid generates overall economic benefits of over 3 times that amount and creates and supports thousands of jobs. Cuts in mental health funding jeopardize services for 340,000 Ohioans, including 100,000 children, which improve their lives and which help them stay out of other state systems. Cuts in ODAPs further threaten services to 100,000 people, including 10,000 adolescents. Cuts in programs for seniors jeopardize their housing, their health care, and their nutrition. Cuts to services for the developmentally disabled endanger the quality of life for 80,000 Ohioans, including another 27,000 who are on waiting lists to get into those services. Cuts jeopardize those persons who maintain their health care while working through the Medicaid buy-in program for workers. Cuts greatly threaten our safety net, greatly threaten. During the recession, due to increased unemployment, our food assistance program has grown by over 50%, our Medicaid program by 37%, and our TANF program by 34%. Cuts in these programs, including cuts in administrative funding for them, threaten the receipt of basic resources on which unemployed and low-wage workers and their families depend. Cuts in housing programs threaten construction of affordable homes and rental units, as well as the provision of decent and affordable housing made possible through leveraging federal and private funds with state funds. They also jeopardize thousands of jobs created by that leveraging. And finally, cuts in local government jeopardize critical public safety services, including fire, police, and sanitation, environmental protection, and libraries and related services that enrich our lives. Investment in services, infrastructure, and natural resources that drive economic growth are threatened as well. Losing ground in these areas jeopardizes our future quality of life for generations. So it should be clear from this cursory review that all Ohio families, and indeed all Ohioans, are impacted, often in dramatic, devastating, or catastrophic ways, by cuts. All of us are vulnerable to sudden loss of employment or to some other change in life circumstance that converts safety and security into economic crisis and insecurity. So we need a solution to this crisis that benefits all Ohioans, all of us. And we must address not only the needs of the present, but with an eye toward the future. Understanding that how well we maintain the foundations of our communities and our economy will determine how we come out of it and how ready we are to resume competing in the economy. Now is the time to maintain our investments in our future, in our quality of life, and in our standard of living. A balanced approach to this budget, including revenues along with efficiencies and cuts, will go a long way toward ensuring the future that we all want. Thank you.